My name is Daniel, and if you're hearing this, I've finally decided to tell someone what happened in apartment 407. 3 years ago, I moved into an old apartment building on the edge of town. The rent was cheap, the neighborhood was quiet, and most of the apartments were empty. The hallway lights flickered constantly, and after midnight, the place felt abandoned. The apartment directly across from mine was 407. Nobody lived there. At least that's what I was told. Every night at exactly 3:07 a.m., I heard footsteps coming from inside it. Slow, heavy, back and forth, back and forth. At first I assumed someone had secretly rented the apartment, but the footsteps never stopped after a few minutes. Sometimes they continued until sunrise. One day I complained to the landlord. When I mentioned the footsteps, his expression changed immediately. "You're hearing them?" he asked. I nodded. For several seconds he just stared at me. Then he walked away without another word. A week later, I found a note taped to my door. It contained only one sentence: "Don't look through the peephole at 3:07. I assumed it was a prank. That night, I stayed awake. At exactly 3:07 a.m., the footsteps began again. I walked to my door and looked through the peephole. The hallway seemed empty. Then I noticed the door of apartment 407 was slightly open. I was certain it had been closed earlier. As I watched, the gap slowly widened. The apartment beyond was completely dark. Then a face appeared, not stepping into the hallway, not moving closer. Just a face emerging from the darkness, pale skin, black eyes. A smile stretched far too wide, and it was staring directly into my peephole, directly at me. I stumbled backward. The footsteps stopped. The next morning, another note was waiting outside my door. 3 words: "I saw you." 2 weeks later, I moved out. Months passed. Then one night my phone rang at exactly 3:07 a.m. Unknown number. When I answered, nobody spoke. I only heard footsteps, slow, heavy, back and forth. The same footsteps from apartment 407. The call ended. The next night it happened again and again. Different numbers, same footsteps, for years. Last month I decided to return to the building. It was abandoned, boarded up. A construction worker nearby told me nobody had lived there for nearly 10 years. I showed him old photos from my phone, pictures of the hallway, pictures of apartment 407. He stared at one image for several seconds, then pointed at something in the reflection of the opposite door. At first I didn't see it, then my stomach dropped. Standing behind me was a tall figure, unnaturally tall, smiling. The same face I'd seen through the peephole. The worker looked confused. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "I took it," I replied. He shook his head. Then he told me something I'll never forget. Apartment 407 never existed. The building went from 406 to 408. There had never been a 407. Not in the blueprints, not in the records, not ever. I left immediately. That was a month ago. Since then, the nightly calls have continued. But last night something changed. The footsteps suddenly stopped. For the first time, I heard a voice, calm, quiet, very close to the phone. It whispered, "You can stop looking for apartment 407. I froze. Then it said, "Because you've been inside it this whole time." The call ended. I didn't understand. Not until this morning. I was packing boxes to move again when I found an old folder hidden behind a wall panel in my apartment. Inside were building records, tenant records, maintenance reports, and dozens of photographs. Every photo showed the same hallway, the same building, the same apartment door, apartment 407. but the tenant listed on every document was always the same person, a man named Daniel Carter. Me. The record stretched back 11 years. The problem is, I only moved into that building 3 years ago. Or at least I thought I did. At the bottom of the folder was one final photograph, a security camera image, time-stamped 11 years earlier. Standing inside apartment 407 was a smiling man staring directly at the camera. It was me, holding a note. The same note that appeared on my door years later. The note read, "Don't look through the peephole at 307. On the back of the photograph, written in my own handwriting, were 6 words. If you remember, it's already too late.